Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of it is just like because she thinks she's just like got that dog in her and she's just that girl, but it's like but just like that, smushed, you're gone. And it's just again, it's humbling. But it's again, also like it's no reason to even come near writing off a movie for something like that.
No, not at all.
So yeah,
No,
exactly. Yeah,
I mean,
so worth addressing. That's a moment of just like missing the point, like we talk about,
There's one thing I want to address.
Absolutely.
Maybe on like a philosophical sense, like talking about the themes of the movie.
Yeah.
Because we're I think
we're approaching the Fassbender for sure.
We're talking a little bit about
the piece rapidly.
The end of the movie is so the ending, spoiler alert, I mean we already kind of spoiled the whole movie, but you have Noomi Rapace and David has been destroyed and she puts him back together and they go on another ship out, and she wants to keep exploring. She still wants to figure it out. She hasn't given up yet. Very kind of nice little note to end the movie on, like a very pessimistic like dark movie, and yet she's still kind of like stubbornly hopeful. She's like very obsessed with like she's like, but it's like it's not really like obsession in like a folly type of way. It's more like she just continues to have this faith in like the truth and what answers there might be out there, which is kind of fascinating. I don't know. I really appreciated that.
I did like that exchange between her and Fassbender where she's like, I still want to know why, they created us. And he's like, what difference does it make? Why? Like they made you, that's it. And she's like, well, I guess that's what makes me human. And you're like, hey, like that's nice.
Yeah.
Why does anybody do anything? I think that's the question. That's actually the philosophical answer to both of these movies is, well, why does anyone do anything? Why does anybody do anything? I don't know.
No, yeah. I remember reading I think Lindelof said like he almost liked the idea, like he liked leaving it open, the idea of just like maybe the reason she was the one that like the only one that survived was because of her faith, and almost that persistence and just the power of her belief in a way, and he just he liked that being an option on the table, which is really fascinating. But
the other thing I think that ending really also hits on is not so much her. I mean, she is also still wondering like why were we created, all of that stuff. But I do think that question is more Wayland's concern, and he really doesn't find an answer, right? He finds violence and death. The question, I think, by the time we get to the end of the movie, the question that it's starting to move towards, and this is again part of that tonal progression that is completed with Covenant, is why do our creators now want to destroy us? And that's something she asks David, right? It's the question of why do you hate us? It's this exploration of the relationship between the creator and what they create, and that the violence that arises in every scenario when these two interact. And I think that's a really, really interesting and kind of bleak thing to explore.
It's I want to talk about it a little bit. Like it is interesting that like I do think about like AI and like how, especially like right now, like in the age that we're in right now, how we're also like disgusted by AI. It's just like a copy of us, and it's like it's a lesser version of us. It's not really human, especially because we know by sci-fi like what it will eventually be capable of. That like it could maybe create things on its own or have its own imagination or intellect that could grow beyond us, and that scares us, that makes us hate it.
I mean, I think one of the coolest like maybe allegorical interpretations of Prometheus, not to get too heady on the pod, but like there's there's maybe something of like a fable or a lesson where we can think of these characters in the far future, like, and maybe they discover like humanity today, right? And it's like so much of the infrastructure, what they think they're looking for and what they think they're finding is like this like great like primordial like origin place of humanity, and what they find is just a military installation, right? And it's just full of killing machines and stuff. And it's like you have to wonder if maybe the movie is like maybe like asking you, the audience, like what if like what would like people find if they looked at us, like, and it's like they're looking for, they're kind of looking for like their ancestors, and all they find is like the folly of this race that like basically destroyed itself, and there's nothing really special about it. It's just like more war, right?
Yeah, the nature of existence almost.
Yeah, like I think it has something of like a moral lesson or a warning to the audience, which is kind of embedded in the story, and yeah, how like pessimistic it is, but also maybe it's a kind of like a call to action, which I think is cool.
Really well said. Yeah. Did the proto Indo-European language scenes deliver for you, Mateo?
It hit. Yeah, right. I was talking about that. I mean, to be clear, it probably, like the mechanics of it are not accurate, but it's fine. It was cool. It was a cool concept.
CinemaSins ding. I don't think they were catching on to that. Yeah.
I don't think they were, but like, because if it's like 35,000 years old, they'd probably have to find a language that was even older than that. But to talk to the engineers, but it's still like that's a cool concept, and it's a cool like it's just a cool wrinkle to like try to like about like maybe like mankind's like like fascination with reconstructing the past, and like now they can actually maybe use it to literally talk to their past in a sense.
It's time to begin talking about Michael Fassbender. I think we'll go more in depth once we get deeper into the Covenant conversation, but just in a Prometheus sense, he is like textbook, like definitional, like scene stealer in this film, and it's so clear that he's the character Ridley is like most interested in, and he's so good in this movie that the sequel clearly goes out of its way to place him at the center of it, because Ridley knows he's the most remarkable thing about these movies. And so just keeping within the confines of Prometheus, just like how was the Fassbender experience?
Let's start at the beginning, basically, where his opening scene was infinitely just fascinating, because we have him riding a bike, dribbling a basketball, and just shooting hoops. Bro's just having a good time while everybody's sleeping.
He hoops.
I just those kind of little character bits to me speak so much more volumes than just like someone writing in their diary like day 500, like I'm by myself still and I am contemplating everything. Like, no, dude, let's just show this guy riding his bike.
And watching Peter O'Toole going, he's literally me. Yeah,
it's the best, man. And then so when you have these moments where everyone's waking up, he's interacting with them, we already have like an idea of like what this being is, and like that it has a personality, it has desires, and it is cool to watch or think about his character in that movie compared to where he is in the next one. How they feared him because he was almost a little too human. He's a little. He had a little bit too much to say.
He's amazing. I love that other conversation with Holloway when he's just like, you know how disappointing it'd be to hear your creators say that we created you because we could, and then he's like, would you do anything for the answer? He's like, absolutely. And it's like in Barry when he goes bingo and then turns off the podcast. He's bloop, just finger in the water and just, oh my gosh, it's just like, and that is the turning point in that character, in his arc, in his kind of trajectory, right?
Where he kind of takes control of his own reins in a little bit.
Yeah. And I will say the one thing I remember before I saw this movie, I remember the image I'd seen was like Fassbender holding that like orb of light and during like the big galaxy projection in like
that was my favorite scene of Prometheus.
Let's go.
That was my favorite scene.
That's a great pick.
I love him like jumping into the chair and just kind of like sitting there. And
that little smile he has on his face. Perfect. It's perfect. Oh my god.
He's not smiling in any other scene until that one where he's by himself. And you're just like, Dude's just having a great time.
God, it's his performance in both movies. It's like all the little things he does that have such a powerful like cumulative effect, and it's amazing.
As much praise as we've given these movies, and as much as I will continue to give them, they absolutely they don't work, or at least not to the extent that they do without this performance. And
yeah, well said.
It's genuinely one of the best. And I mean, he's having fun in those scenes, but it's still really unsettling. Like the way he acts is not entirely human. Fassbender nails that, and it is so terrifying in some instances. I mean, we'll get to Covenant, but there are moments in Covenant where like I actually got chills from some of the line reads.
I've already sent clips to Chris. Like,
yeah, I think Seb has screen recorded every Fassbender like scene from Covenant just to have in the arsenal.
It's interesting that Ridley coming back has immediately pivoted back to evil, whatever you want to call androids, replicants, whatever they are, right? Because I mean, the original Alien, we have Ash, who is this malevolent character, portrayed by Ian Holm, who's very good in the role, of course, but he's after the first Alien. I know you haven't seen the sequel, Seb, but with the second one, we get the introduction of this character Bishop, who is this friendly AI, and he helps, and then he's in the further sequels as well as like this sympathetic character who, even though he's not really human, he's still human in every way that counts, right? And Ridley immediately pivots back with Prometheus to this like, no, they are terrifying. I mean, this is something that is not human, that is trying to pretend to be human to gain our trust. It is so scary.
Yeah, and he's pretty much in Covenant. He asked, like, what if Alien 1 and Aliens, what if those two AI interacted with each other? Like, what if they met?
Yeah.
Which
good description of
it. And so what, wrapping in Prometheus, time to share our this is why we play scenes. Mateo, is yours the Fassbender?
Yeah, like when he sits in that chair, he plays the flute.
We'll get
there.
Flutes are out.
Like that whole sequence, like feels like the birth of that villain, right? Like of the like basically like satanic like kind of character that he becomes. Like because like he's just becomes like so intoxicated by like the power and the majesty. I mean, it's just a perfect moment where you're just sitting with that character, and it's like it's breathtaking. You're getting it from all these different angles. Like the lights are kind of like blaring on you, and in that really dark room. I mean, I think handling a scene from a lot of different angles and cutting a lot and like making that all come into like an idea is so hard. Like that, I think, is the hardest. For me, that's some of the hardest direction to pull off. Like every time I notice it, like it blows me away, and this is no exception. Like definitely my favorite moment of the movie.
Love that.
Yeah,
really well said. What about you, Seb?
I wanted to shout out one thing about there's a moment where there's like a big dust storm or a big storm going on, and someone gets knocked out, and Fassbender has to go like save them, and they're getting pulled back, and dude's just like straight like standing like a statue while he's getting pulled back. And it was just one of the funniest bits of like physical humor to me. That like
he does something else. He just like with his hands gestures what's about to happen. He's so like hilariously chill about it.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's a great, like he has funny bits, and which I think elevates the performance. But overall, I would say my favorite it's just a moment to me that I thought was really cool was that when the first engineer they encounter dies, he has this a moment of going mortal after all, and you're just like,
oh yeah,
that's one of the lines that sent chills down my spine. Like how is he like cooking on every single like delivery? The things I would do for his like actor's diary You know,
yeah,
from that
to see his
character, like
script and all the notes he made. Yeah,
all the notes he had in the hotel.
it's so precise. One of the most precise performances that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My true "This Is Why We Play" is in Covenant, though.
Oh, Owen, what about you? Like, what's your just like this is what it's all about moment in Prometheus?
Well, to stick with the Fassbender theme, I will mention quickly a scene with him, even though I think the scene that sticks out when I just think about this movie is the C-section. I mean, that's the
feel
scene
free to
of the movie
piggyback
for
on
me.
that. Yeah, it's
But
amazing.
really quickly, I do want to mention it's a pretty simple scene, but David discovers the vials of the disease and immediately understands what they're for, right?
Yeah.
Which is this to start this destructive chain of events, and does not hesitate to take that drop. And when you see him slip it into the drink, and then that's followed by this conversation scene between Holloway and David, and it's so, I mean, you're watching Holloway put all of his trust into David, and we know this whole time that David's sitting there with that poison glass that's going to kick off the rest of both of these movies. It's just chilling, and he executes it perfectly. But yeah, that C-section scene is just so viscerally memorable. It really, I mean, the all of the effects, by the way, totally practical with CGI texturing on that little baby squid, but
Are you serious?
that's a practical puppet. Yeah. That was pulled out of her stomach.
Crazy.
It's disgusting and so uncomfortable and like perfect. It's so memorable. Yeah.
Wow, I'm slack-jawed. Like this is why we play. I mean that's what it's all about.
We're this close to just being like, yeah, she actually had a squid taken out of her.
Yeah, no,
but experimental. I mean, I agree with Seb that my moment, if I have to choose one from both films, would be Covenant. But we'll get there.
I think
Covey time.
It's time. I mean, we love Prometheus, but guys, I mean, I am.
Well, it's like, I mean, you know, we're talking. It's like, you know, you're talking about part one and then it's part two, you know, it's the conclusion.
No, of course. And yeah, Covenant is such a special film. And I want to, let me just kick us off by saying that after rewatching this movie, after rewatching Alien Covenant, I can officially say that the 2.9 average rating for this film on Letterboxd is the eighth wonder of the world. That is a bad miracle. Like that is you, like sometimes in life, you just have to find closure by accepting you will never understand something. And that's what this is for me. Like I was almost hostile watching this movie during some scenes and witnessing the sheer amount of juice this film has and how like self-evident and almost impossible to miss it seems like just the sauce this movie has. And while thinking about the rating while watching it, like I understand that the average rating on a silly movie app is not the end all be all for the fate and legacy of a film. I know I'm on my soapbox, like the fact that there are nearly 400,000 people on that app who claim to be movie fans, who as a whole gave it an average score of below a 3 out of 5. We need a cultural reset. I'm about to go David mode. Like I'm about like that was my Joker moment seeing all that. And again, like the fact that like you, Seb and Mateo, seem to share the sentiment as nascent Covenant truthers. I'm like SpongeBob floating meme. Like this is all I could ever ask for. I don't need any gifts for Christmas now. This is just truly amazing. But what do you two think about Covenant? His with those thoughts.
Okay. First, I want to drop a little theory about Covenant. Real quick.
Theory corner.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
So, and just to piggyback off of our David conversation, because this is the David movie.
This is the David movie. Yeah. Yes. 100%. We will dive even deeper into
that opening scene. Where he is with now correctly aged Guy Pearce.
Yeah, mildly older Guy Pearce. Yeah.
Yeah. Peter Wayland. You know, they're talking and they're kind of shooting the shit a little bit, and
they're kind of podcasting. Yeah.
Yeah, and he tells David like, oh, like, all right, hit me with some Wagner. What you got, right? And the first thing that he has to say, he knocks his choice, right? The entry of the gods into Valhalla. He's like, but you're not playing with a full orchestra. It sounds kind of stale. And it's like, you know, that hurt David.
Yeah.
You know that killed him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like
insecurities to that character. Yeah.
I feel like that's the moment this is the moment where he truly became David, you know?
Someone dunking on his music. I mean, that's for me. I mean, that's true. Someone dunking on my music taste probably would send me into a genocidal maniac. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, you know, like it plants that like seed of resentment and like,
yes,
it's so good. And I mean, like, really, like, this movie just becomes a vehicle for like the most evil movie character ever.
Yeah. No, not just that, but like also like quite an evil ending.
And I guess like just to give like general thoughts about the movie, like I this movie like kind of felt maybe a little, and people critics at the time like said this, like it feels like an amalgamation of other Alien films. And you know, it feels like it's a retread, but like, and I can see where you might get that in the sense of like the xenomorph set piece stuff is, you know,
xenomorph
it's just
on a ship. Yeah,
it's, you know, it's of a piece with aliens, but also like this movie is like you can just kind of ignore all of that because you have the David show, and it's like it's so incredible. Like it almost like it just overrides everything else for it. It just like And that's not to say the other stuff is bad, because it's good. It's well directed. It's enjoyable, but it's like
totally.
It's the David show. That's what this movie is, and it's incredible. It's shockingly good.
I should shout out that first action set piece with the xenomorphs, where there's the two people who get infected. That one actually like rivaled the pregnancy scene in terms of like just the most horrible sequence overall.
Yes,
because it's not just visually like how horrible that sequence is, but it's also mentally this person going back and forth between the room of like this person leaving their friend in there to die because they don't want to, you know, risk themselves, then feeling the guilt of running away, grabbing the gun, coming back. Your friend's already dead, and you go in there to shoot the thing anyway, and then you know you realize it's too powerful, so you try and leave. You break your leg on the way out, and now you're limping. The thing gets out, and you're just you end up dying. You ended up being burned alive. Another burned alive thing, but like. I mean, it's just overall like the way it cascades was just one of the most horrible things I've ever seen.
Thank you so much for highlighting that. Like, I wanted to bring that up. Like, I mean, that is just like utterly like heart pounding, terrifying cinema. Like that is those 15 minutes from when the folks who got infected just like start tweaking. That is gripping my armrest cinema right there. And you have like the score is just pulsating, just boom, 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 and it is like one of my favorite like midpoint sequences in a film, because it's a crescendoing of everything the first hour has been leading to, and then proceeds to spin the film in an entirely new and even more exciting direction into the full blown like the David show, which we'll get to. But like action horror filmmaking like doesn't get much better than that scene. It's like I don't care if you've seen Xenomorph on a ship before, like that is just like I am like I'm not even breathing during those 20 minutes. Like it's so dread inducing, and it's
the other thing I think this has a bit of an advantage on with like compared to Prometheus is the characters, which are all very well developed, and you don't even realize that character development is necessarily like happening for the first hour. It's doing it quietly, but by the time you get to that first action set piece, the reason it's so gripping is because you understand the relationships all these characters have with each other, and you care about them by that point. Like Ridley really does. He sells those. I mean, there are several moments in this film. Like I had to give this one the cried tag on Letterboxd because I mean, it genuinely does. I mean, it executes the emotion well. And I mean, that's a testament to the performances and the script and everything. But like I don't know, the reason that you're so attached in that scene when we're hopping back and forth between the Covenant and the lander ship, and then out to the people in the field who are trying to get there in time, is you're watching this all fall apart, and you know what it means for these people that you're
great cross-cutting, amazing cross-cutting, and that's a really great way to put it. And like I hadn't formulated that thought yet, but you're so absolutely right. Like also partially because these characters are more sympathetic than a lot of the Prometheus characters, but like I cared more about like every death, like in Covenant than like most Prometheus deaths. Billy Crudup. Rest in power, Billy Crudup. But yeah, and I touched a bit on that in our Prometheus bit of just like yeah, like I really appreciated that all these characters had like an already established like camaraderie and were written and performed in such a more like naturalistic way, you know, like in
Yeah.
Covenant. It's just like it's so much easier just to get on board. Yeah.
Oh, also, if we're gonna just to quickly mention, kind of as a bit, you know, we had our the horror movie. Oh well, I wouldn't do that moment. Has gotta be Billy Crudup. David, is it dangerous? Should I look in there? He's like, yeah, no, it's not dangerous. Why would you believe him? Why would you believe him? Why would you look into that egg and see that thing moving? I mean, come on, man.
I mean, to be fair, if I was in the same room as Michael Fassbender, I would. He's a charming and convincing fella, you know. I don't know, like I don't blame him, you know.
That was I would have. Let's just say that's I would have handled things differently.
Right. So I mean that one set piece was really effective. I wasn't feeling the first act that much because I mean, whereas like I liked the setup, the James Franco burning alive thing was kind of weird, but
kind of aged well, to be frank. If we're considering the
you're not wrong. But I did like the hook of like, oh, you know, we heard Country Roads, so that's like a nice little mystery there.
Detours were always a fun mechanic. It's something in Sunshine they do something very similar. It's a great, like, I love that. It's like we're going here, but we could go here, and that's just like I'm in like,
well, it's funny because it's just like they're having that conversation of like, you know, we have a charted place, we know what it looks like, we know everything about it, like we just gotta get back in the pods. He's like, yeah, but we don't really want to get back in the pods, so like, you know, we should really go to this planet that seems pretty perfect. And I love like her being the skeptic, being like, it's a little too good to be true, isn't it? And he's just like, well, we got to do this, you know? So all that was fine. Like it wasn't anything I was like docked about it. It was fine. I was like, you know, and then, you know, David shoots the flares, or a mysterious Jedi figure shoots the flare, and your
binary sunset starts playing.
And then from there, the movie becomes one of the greatest things ever created.
It transcends.
You know, I mean, from the moment you're going through, like he's leading them through that amazing set piece of, you know, the destruction that you find out he created, to like everything he shows them around and being like, I'm a bit of a collector. Like everything he's showing them, like it's.
The tour of like that compound, and when you're like, oh my god, again, we can talk about the scene more later, but when you're seeing all like the dead like just the bodies and stuff on the ground, you're like, what happened here? And it's just like, and you're being fed this like unreliable narrator stuff. It's
Okay, so first time watching though, did you think it was David who was the hooded figure? I was like, I had tricked myself because I was like, oh, David just switched his name because Fassbender's already in the movie, but he's playing a different robot. And I was like, oh, he got separated from Elizabeth and now he's like going by a different moniker. So I was like, that's how I had tricked myself.
I may have done the same thing because I think I knew Fassbender was in Covenant, but I was like, oh, they reprogrammed him. I think that's where I was at. But I think when the hooded figure shows up, I think I was like, "Oh, that's David." I was like, "I think that switched for me." But that's an amazing surprise. I love that.
I thought it was Elizabeth. So when they pulled it off, because there was long hair coming out of the hood, so I was like, "Oh, it's Elizabeth." And
that probably is what they want you to think, and that is really well done.
They pull off and it's David. I was doing backflips. I literally like in my notes. I was
that's so awesome. So Owen, for you on your rewatch, because you know, again, we already love it, but it got the bump. It went from a 4.5 to a 5 for you. So I guess broadly, like what took it there for you?
I mean, the thing I noticed the most on this rewatch here is how circular the film is. I mean, in terms of like, we open with, besides the David scene with Guy Pearce, whatever. We open with sort of the same scene we opened Prometheus with, which is the android walking around the ship.
It mirrors it a lot.
And then the ending of this film is another repetition of that, with the android walking around these rows of colonists, sort of hanging suspended, the future of humanity, if you will, hanging suspended in the balance on this ship. It so flawlessly transitions from the first 42 minutes to an hour, which is very Prometheus in tone, as I think maybe Seb, that's why you were a little exhausted by, is that if you did watch these back to back, it's like another 40 minutes of
You're
Prometheus,
retreading the same ground.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I see that. Yeah, because and just to quickly piggyback on that, yeah, I remember on this rewatch, I think I enjoyed that first hour a lot more because when you know where it's going and
Yeah.
Sure.
and you see the purpose it's serving, it is more enjoyable. I didn't bump in a hard first time around, but I was like, I'm really vibing like entirely. Yeah.
And then I mean, I keep going back to this tonal progression thing. I mean, this is my sort of unifying theory for these two movies, but when it makes the turn into an alien movie, which it's not necessarily just an alien movie, right? But that first crazy set piece that we've been talking about on the ship, when that thing rips his spine out of his back and starts running around, that switch, which we've been anticipating since the beginning of Prometheus, and which he's finally paying off, and then he just does not let off the gas for the next hour and 20 minutes. And it is so exhilarating and so well executed, and that the sort of the build up of that horror that's been built through this atmosphere since through Prometheus and through the first half of this movie pays off so well. It's brilliant. Yeah.
I love that. Well said. And I realize like along with like the tonal progression, it's like the visuals also are running parallel with that, because again, we talk about how colorful Prometheus is and like how it's like opulent it is. And then you have, but Coven is much more desaturated and feels, I'm realizing, a lot more intentional as the story descends more into nihilism. It's you're getting a lot more blacks in dark colors and all these things. And it's rainy and like it really works. It just feels everything just feels so intentional.
I saw the tonal shift coming the moment that one guy said, I gotta go take a leak, because I know in movies just nothing ever good happens when a guy goes off to take a leak.
No, truly he's got a hole in those movies, bro.
Got the Gandalf puff rings turning into black goo or whatever.
Yeah. And so before we get to when David enters the film, right? So we have Walter.
I just swung back in my chair when I heard David again.
Yeah. I just want to talk about the rest of the cast just a little bit, because again, Fassbender is the meat and potatoes. Again, may not have as many big names as Prometheus, but I do think it's better cast than Prometheus. I feel like everyone slips into the roles really well, you know. And I like having a lot of faces I don't recognize, but like they just felt like real people in a lot of ways. And I also just want to shout out Danny McBride too. I think that's a really fun, great bit of casting. I think he brings like a lot of pathos and heart to the team, and pretty like effortlessly. When
Danny McBride he's kind of maybe the most stereotypical character in that movie. He's great.
He brought something to it.
And that's the thing. It's like, you know exactly the role he's playing, but yeah,
his name is
his own
Tennessee.
Energy. Yeah. which is why I appreciate it so much, because and also he like, I mean, talk about like screen presence, because he's, you know, because when they kind of get separated, and he has his own like little team of 3 left up in space, and he pretty effortlessly like holds it down up there, you know, as the kind of like foremost figure. And I also just love that kind of mechanic, the like communication breakdown, like, you know, some people low, some people below, and like, and just again the cross cutting that happens between them, and like, and oh my gosh, that's like in a heartbreaking moment of when like you realize it's like, oh wait, like he doesn't know his wife just blew up in that ship, when you realize how they are completely out of the loop, and she's like, yeah, can you go on the private channel real quick, and he plays that scene perfectly, and it's just like it's a really effective. It was really effective for me. I don't know.
And the other moment, this is actually what earned the movie the cried tag on Letterboxd, is towards the end. I think it's before the final wake up, Daniels, there's a unidentified life form, and they go into it again, right?
Yeah.
But it's when you kind of think things are settling down, they're back on the ship, and Danny McBride comes into the room with Daniels, and he's kind of making small talk. He's saying like, I rebooted Mother and all this stuff. And then Daniels kind of just turns around and they just hug, because they've just lost everything. And it's so like, I'm tearing up right now talking about it. It's really well done.
I agree. It's just, it's very, very, very effective. Very effective.
Catherine Waterston is great too. Like,
she's good.
I mean, in the same way that Noomi Rapace is kind of there to be like a little like credulous, maybe like, optimistic. She's like, Daniel's Catherine Waterston's character is like kind of like, yeah, this is bullshit, like she's there to be like, a little more skeptical, a little more hard-nosed. Not exactly the same energy as Ripley in the original
similar.
Alien films, but a very similar vibe. And like obviously like trying to pull off a similar vibe to literally like one of the greatest actresses ever. Like, yeah, like trying to like, you're following up the act of Sigourney Weaver and you pull that off so well. That's a tall ask, and she does a fantastic job.
It's time for the Fassbender piece in full, fellas.
Can I really quick before we get into Fassbender?
Yes.
I have one more little cast thing to say, because I think the sneaky great performance of this film is Amy Seimetz as Ferris. She would be the one. Okay, think back to that first big set piece. You have the two locked in the med bay, and one's banging on the door saying "Let me out." She's the one on the outside. She gets blood splatters. Like
Oh yes.
He sells that terror so well. I mean, really, she's phenomenal. Yeah,
goated.
Great shout. Fully agree. Okay. Honestly, we can if we just want to take it from the flare and just work through the David show. Let's just freaking do it. Okay. And I want to kick us off with this. And this is the aforementioned, this is a quote David Ehrlich wrote about Fassbender in his Covenant review. He said, quote, "It wouldn't be overstating the case to say that the nuance and conviction of Fassbender's performances in this film, performances, plural, of course, refocus Ridley Scott's ongoing prequel series, justify its existence, and fascinatingly complicate the sci-fi masterpiece that first launched this franchise into orbit. A Best Actor trophy wouldn't be sufficient for what Fassbender accomplishes here."
Yes,
100%.
Yes.
He's that good.
Absolutely.
One of the best dual performances, like in film history. After he cuts his hair, there are no aesthetic or makeup differences between the two, but through sheer micro expressions, you know exactly which one you're dealing with. And and it's just really being like, and seeing this in a big blockbuster movie is so amazing. Really being like, this is what I find most interesting. And we're going to spend as much time as I want here. We're going to have them two just chilling, sitting on the ground playing flutes. We're going to do it. And like, and when David arrives, it becomes so clear why this movie's being made. Like why we're doing this in the first place. And it's like, okay, let's freaking go. So
David's like, "Hello, brother."
Yeah, I love that when he finally acknowledges him, because it's Walter live react to like seeing David, and again, he plays that perfectly. He's just like, holy smokes, like that. Like that's the dude that like made me program the way I am. Yeah.
I'm waiting for the like when you see him, he shoots the flare, and then you realize it's him.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know why. That's like that's how like they introduce like a fan service character in The Mandalorian, you know?
No, you're not wrong.
It's like the Mandalorian. I'm gonna play the Mandalorian screech. I'm gonna insert that. That when David, the most evil person you've ever seen on screen, arrives.
Yeah.
The Cad Bane arrival.
Well, let me say this. This is so I want to say this because this is how I approached the movie. And I want to know, especially you, Seb, if you had the same reaction when you first saw it. Because Prometheus ends, you have Shaw rebuilding David and taking him on a trip, and we're going to find out the real origin. We're going to leave this military installation and see if we can find more of the engineers. And you see him and he's back. And I'm like, I wasn't sure what sort of character he was going to be. There's a good.
It's revealed that it's David that's back.
When you see David's back, I was not sure if he was a villain yet. You know?
Oh no, I wasn't sure either.
And it plays off that ambiguity, like because know he's a little outgoing. He's pleasant.
He's helping them at first.
Yeah, like
I forgot about that. On first watch, it's not. You don't know that he's lying. Don't know that he's
not clear.
Yeah,
no,
it's not clear that he's like a lying evil liar yet. But
yes,
that first that first moment when he's telling the story of how they got there, and then you get the flashback of what really happened. I mean, that's like a Hitchcock type thing.
Yeah,
that's a Hitchcock type thing, because you're letting the audience know before the characters know, and now you're just playing off this dramatic irony. And the dramatic irony is that you just saw him genocide this entire planet of people. Like, it's shocking. It's
full. And when you rewatch it, and when they first arrive at the compound, and you're just seeing all the carnage, and it's like, oh, it's sickening. And that's
they're his trophies.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
That just made me ill.
He lives in that destruction that he did.
That's this movie's the sicko. This is why we play is that scene where he drops all the poison. I mean, it's like you don't even blink watching that scene, because like
it's an unprompted flashback too, which is what you're talking about, Mateo, like the Hitchcockian. Like it just, the movie is showing you this almost in like a visceral kind of it's so weird. Like, it's not, the story didn't demand it in the moment. Like, it wasn't, because of pacing issues or anything. They're just like, we're going to show you this
placement,
and let you dissect what it meant.
I want the characters. I want you, the audience, to know right now instead of later. I don't want it to be revealed.
It's strange, because the first thing that came to my mind after I saw that scene was like, where's Elizabeth in all of this? Like, was she?
Yes.
Was she complacent? Was she, going along with it? Like, or
yeah.
But obviously he wasn't telling the truth about everything. So like, I just wasn't expecting
the way the way you peel back the layers on the truth of the reality. And again, he's just like, oh, like I did love her. Like, she treated me like no one else did. But then you see like her body, like the way he researched on that, totally carved open. It's like, oh my God, like it's just it's amazing storytelling. It's amazing storytelling.
What's crazy? He has the little gravestone for her body that's not there.
Yeah.
Who did he make that lie for?
I guess it's just a signify more like symbolic.
He was just waiting,
but
like, that's what I mean. Like,
it's the alibi.
It's so like, he is just making up this lie for just the chance that somebody will come and do it. Like, he has been building up everything for that moment. It's like, it's so evil.
Here's where a little theory comes in, okay? Because I think that's explained if you look at it from the perspective that all of this, everything that happens in this film is masterminded directly by David. And I think the little key to that is when they finally make it to the hologram room and they see Elizabeth humming that song, and it's projecting the signal from that source. Yeah. The only reason the signal comes on is because they're in that room interacting with that computer, which will then imply that David is sending that signal out, waiting for someone to fall into that trap. He wants someone to come to this planet so he can set this chain of events in motion of using these human bodies to reproduce these creatures, right? I think everything that happens in this film, nothing is by chance, and all of it is this master plan from David. That's the way I looked at it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think his love for for Elizabeth, I think that is genuine, but I think it's just his like narcissism and his self-conviction, and his purpose just comes above all. It's like she just like, that was like, it was like nothing personal. Like, she didn't kill her because he had animosity. He was like, this is just more important. Like, I think it's just the way he thinks. Yeah.
But he was also just emotionally invested in his hatred for humanity. Like that, like he's like I love you, but you are a human in the end.
The hate from humanity comes above any appreciation or affection he has for her,
Exactly.
There's also the one, real quick, Mateo, I'll let you have your say here, but the one moment in either of these films that he shows emotion at all is when the whatever it's called, xenomorph, protomorph, whatever, gets shot by Crutta, and he looks like he's on the verge of tears.
No, yes.
I sent this was the first clip I sent to Chris. I was like, this is the greatest piece of acting I've seen Fassbender give.
It is. I just keep wanting to use the word perfect. Like it's
remarkable.
Like, it's so genuine. Like, yeah, and it's alarming how sincere that emotion is in that scene. Yeah.
Because it's almost because it's so unexpected, because he's having this very tender moment and you think like, oh, he's just taming a beast, he's trying to like protect or something, but the moment it gets shot and it's just pure anguish of like screaming no, his acting
it's amazing,
mesmerizing.
And we have to talk about Fassbender on Fassbender. I mean, like it's one of my buddies' reviews was like, the only thing rivaling De Niro and Pacino is Fassbender and Fassbender. Like, it's like,
I mean,
I hope I'm not jumping the gun, but I wrote down, I was like, I would bet my mortgage that like the one-on-one scene, the flute scene, somebody's This Is Why We Play. Like that's like, I mean, that's the safest bet in the world. And like it's all done in that one take too, which is so impressive when you have like a double, especially in a scene.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Jude Law, Matt Damon, talented Mr. Ripley type beat.
You
know?
Yeah, the sexual chemistry he has with himself is insane. I
can't understand
it. But like it's a masterclass. And the way he's like trying to like lead him to the water and like trying to get him to see what he sees, and what he says like the perfection of almost like the loneliness of his dreams, or something like that.
He's quoting like poetry at himself.
Yeah, and like the gift of creativity, and like it's some of the most like I'm at a loss for words. Some of the most like cerebral and just like compelling filmmaking and acting I've ever seen.
Let's dissect precisely why like the flute scene is maybe so enamoring. Like beyond it just being like, oh, a guy's interacting with himself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think
I would say it's just it's not just the same species. It's like it's two of the same species. They're both AI who look exactly like one another, but are like have two completely like different like philosophies on life, you know? And it's just this like this war of the minds and stuff, and like this. And they're both stubborn in their own ways, and they're trying to like, and he's like constantly trying to like convert him to like his way of thinking. There's so many ways to approach it. Yeah, what are you guys thinking?
It's like the peak of like pride, right? Like,
yes,
yeah.
And and you're talking about like this movie as maybe like an allegory or like an homage to Milton's Paradise Lost, like, and you have like the fall of Satan being kind of like this pride fueled thing, like the most like the ultimate like pride and ego is like him trying to seduce himself, like
totally.
I mean it's also like
it's his narcissism.
I maybe I have to watch Thelma and Louise, but it's probably the gayest scene that Ridley Scott has ever directed. The flute is like like very kind of clearly an innuendo, like crazy. I mean, it's just like for a $100 million like alien like
that's
science
what I'm
fiction
saying
movie.
For an IP tentpole film to have a scene like this, that alone, it's just like I can't believe I'm watching this right now.
And he's like quoting poetry. He's like, it's like me in the fog. We come in on little cat feet. I'm like, that's crazy. Like that's crazy. Like who directs that? Who comes up with that stuff?
I think that the part of this scene that really ties almost this scene is like the keystone for the whole movie in a lot of ways. Yeah. And Seb, I think you probably have a similar thought here, but the idea of creation is what gets brought up in this scene, which is it's David telling Walter that you could play all of these perfect musical pieces, but you could never create. And that the capacity for creation is really what David is chasing throughout this whole movie. Yes. He wants to be the engineer of this new species of xenomorph, like human hybrid. He wants to be able to create because he thinks that is what would make him human or superior to humanity, right? So and that's kind of distilled into this perfect little scene of the musical interaction. He doesn't want to just play the piano like he was in that opening scene for his master. He wants to create. Yeah,
absolutely.
You did it perfectly. I couldn't say it better.
And again, like a film like this, its willingness to explore those, like, because Prometheus explores a lot of big ideas, but sometimes you have to kind of almost Trojan horse it into the action, or to put it in a different coat. in this film, it's just so unconventional, and like in the room they're in, like that set is so amazing, and all his like drawings, and he's like a bit of a zoologist, and like and also real quick side note, those like big crystal lights in those rooms, I need them. Those are amazing vibes coming off those lights for a location that is otherwise.
College dorms would go crazy with those.
Unbelievable. And you mentioned the Paradise Lost thing again, because I know Prometheus originally titled like Paradise. It was pulling from that. I think this one does that to an even greater extent, because yeah, it's supposed to be this idyllic, like almost eerily quiet, serene paradise that they just landed on. Like it's like, this is our new home, and then they end up in the most like nightmarish and like hellish compound. You know, it's all about escaping.
Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden.
No, truly, and striking that progression is just so fascinating, and so then so the layers end up getting kind of peeled back more and more on what really happened, you know, like on what David was up to. And then we get like the true Walter v David, when he's like that's like a marvelly line done right, when he's like, I've had a few updates since then, you know, like since the last thing. I mean, it's like, I'll take it. Let's go. Great fight, very fun fight. And I wanted to ask you two this, Seb and Mateo, just about the twist. Like, how did you know at all, and when did you know that? Because the movie leads you to believe that Walter came out victorious in this fisticuffs with David when it goes from the mental battle to the physical one. Wants you to believe that Walter won it. Did you know, and if so, when did you know that like it was actually?
I didn't believe for a second that Walter won that fight. I knew that David was better.
Here's what I'll say. I think the movie intentionally like kind of uses a little bit of it wants you to kind of be a little doubtful. I don't think it's ever. I don't think it's trying to pull the wool over your eyes. I think it's just. I think it was, for me at least, playing off of the ambiguity till the very end, because
yes, the camera is so suspicious of him. Go ahead, Mateo.
Yeah, no, you're saying that. That's an incredible point, because like. There is when they're dealing with that xenomorph, right? Every movie like would be like, we have them dealing with this problem, right? And you're gonna cut between, you know, you're gonna have Tennessee and Daniels, and those are the perspectives you're gonna follow, and then you have maybe a little voiceover. You have the voiceover from Walter, but instead the movie cuts back to Walter so much during that. And you're getting his like, you're getting his facial expressions, and I'm like, why do they keep showing his face? This is making me uncomfortable. This is making me think, is there going to be a reveal that it's David? Like, if they just keep putting me on edge there. And I was like, there's like maybe like a little smile there. Like, what did he do there? Like, I'm like squinting, like, what is his reaction to this right now? Like, what is he focused on?
The reason why they play it so perfectly is because David poses a question to Walter of, why did you put your hand in the mouth to save her? Like, did you? Yeah. And what was that, an act of duty, or was it an act of love? And that's what they were debating. And so the moment where they reunite, and you know, he has the hand off, and you're just like, oh, it's because that's Walter. And she's just like, I never got to thank you. And he touches the hand. He touches the missing hand. Yeah. And you think, oh, like, is Walter having a moment of growth where he's acknowledging, oh, it was an act of love instead of duty? But then now looking back on, when you know it's David, it's perfect. Like,
it was an act of duty for David.
Yeah. It's like, in rewatching that like final act, it's like the Us thing. It's like when you know it's the tether. Those little like reaction shots are amazing. My favorite is when the xenomorph, also xenomorph POV shot, crazy. When you like, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I'm sure. I'll take it. It's when the xenomorph is like looking into one of the security cameras, and Fassbender is like almost like I think maybe you can see his face, and David is like looking back onto the camera, but then the xenomorph attacks the camera and lurches at it, and Fassbender and David jumps back, and he's so like, he's almost distraught at that. I guess that like, because I guess maybe for a moment it's like his creation like attacked him, you know, and came at him.
Yes.
So it's an amazing little moment, bro. Like I love that. And it's just, again, and that's why it's so amazing on rewatch, because it's just peppered with so many of those things, you know.
Yeah, it's such a testament to his performance that we have not said a single word about the xenomorph sequences, and we're an hour into talking about an alien movie, and they're good. They are not to be dismissed. I think
Yeah.
the horror sequences at the end when that thing is on the ship are really,
Oh,
really well
yes.
done.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
100%.
I mean,
I
I
mean, I
love
was
I
gonna
love it
say-
when they're airborne and they're still on the surface of the planet.
Yeah. Oh,
And-
what a sequence.
That was a great
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
That's right. And she's like swinging around. Awesome sequence.
I
No.
mean, the whole metaphor for Alien as a franchise and it being much more of an invasive type
Yeah.
of threat and species
Yeah.
being for sexual assault and everything is definitely what I got from it. I was surprised Ridley went to go like as on the nose as he does in the shower scene at the end. I figured he'd be a bit more subtle than that. But
that scene again, that's like Sherlock done right, and that's where I wrote down. I was like, this movie's mean, just to kill them like that so mercilessly. I was like, oh my gosh!
Look, if there's one thing the Alien Covenant is, it's not subtle.
No.
It is not subtle.
No.
And what a beautiful shot when they're in the shower and you just see their legs and all that water's coming down with that really bright backlighting and the tail just kind of winds up her leg. It is
man,
what a shot.
Beautiful is one word for it.
Oh, yeah.
Bro, might have turned into David for a second.
It's-
David coded right there. Yeah.
Okay. I want to. Okay. I know we've talked a lot about the David middle act, and I want to talk a lot about it a little bit more.
I want to talk about it some more.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I had like kind of outlined this out a little bit more clearly.
Mhm.
But so I don't know how familiar our listeners or any of my fellow co-potters are with the filmography of Jacques Tourneur, but like this movie has like, especially that middle sequence, it has like this very like B movie horror vibe to it. Like there's like visual references, like for example, like you have there's an exterior shot and it's there for like a second. They don't dwell on it at all. That's just the painting The Isle of the Dead, which was made into like a horror movie like in the 40s. You have just a lot of talking and a lot of like the movie is like almost just becomes like a purely like philosophical exercise in the way a lot of these like 40s like kind of B movie horrors were, where like you're kind of using the genre as like a hook to get the audience in and like kind of like package all of this like baggage into the movie. I really fell in love with that, like with that element of the movie, because you don't really see like modern movies doing stuff like that. Like
No. They're almost scared of it.
Like, yeah, like I think like the concept of like of having too much talking in a horror movie like feels like very like people are like almost like afraid of conversation in movies. And I think like conversation done right can be so powerful. Like and like you're going through this like set and like like you're slowly realizing like how evil David is, like how fascinated, how like he wants to his creation, like what he's proud of. Like humans, like people create art, they can create things that are generative, that like add to the human experience, that add to like the experience, that enrich our lives. And all David can do is just make things that kill and destroy. And like and he is just as like in love with that as like somebody might be in love with like making music or painting. Like that is like, and that only comes through the conversation, through the quietness and the exploration. But like it's just as sickening as watching an alien burst out of somebody's spine. Like that's the triumph of this movie for me.
I mean, to pair that, like the moment where he's waiting for the alien to burst out of the captain and he's just like crouched like Gollum, just throwing rocks at the body, and just like I mean, just those little mechanisms of his character that he's just when the alien pops out and he rises with it, and he's almost like teaching it to walk to an extent. Like it's you're so right, Mateo, that like it's so horrible for him to be so proud of something so purely evil.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, he takes so much
it's
joy
and it's
in
kind
it.
of it's kind of like it's like schlocky. It's a little campy, but like it's also like really messed up. Like
And so thought-provoking, and you're so right, Mateo. It's like this movie's ability to be so cerebral and like sophisticated and have as much like just genre fun and schlock in it, like it's just
Yeah.
it's amazing. It's a beautiful synthesis. And again, we've talked about Fassbender ad nauseum, and like the thing with the role like this, with one of those like dual roles, like two performances, it can be such a like sometimes actors like taking those roles because like there's just so much to chew on, and they're like, oh, like and they're like, oh, like let me cook, you know, like sometimes the movie will almost exist just to let them cook, and sometimes that like just so they can do some like capital A acting, you know, and sometimes it's just like almost overly performative, you know, and there's like going for it, but this is like it's an actor's showcase, but it's the dual performance it's so meaningful. Like there's so much substance to like the presence of that mechanic, and he's just, and again, it's like as to why it's so special. It's like you and like, or in those scenes when he's acting with himself, it's just as simple as you can't take your eyes off the screen. You just like where you want to be watching Fassbender at all times. Like it's just he's a true star. He's like one of the best we've got, and like and again, you watch this movie and you're like, why? Like he needs to be in every movie. Like I feel like every auteur needs to be casting him. Like there's
we talked about Tim Robinson.
Yeah.
Fassbender.
No,
Fassbender in every movie.
Yeah, real quick. I mean, Seb, you mentioned it briefly. This was very almost my moment for the film. I think another one edged it out for me, but when the xenomorph pops through the chest and he's the little guy, and that lighting from the flashlight on the body of Crodop, and then in the shadow David raises his arms, and then the xenomorph mocks him, and it's this like ethereal moment of this the realization of David's dream to create, where now he is the father of this being, right? And he's showing it, just like how he tried to do with Walter with the flute, but now this is his own creation. It's really it's kind of a darkly beautiful moment in a lot of ways.
You kind of hinted at it for our this is why we play from this film. I mean, what were you guys? I mean, what's the other scene you were thinking about, Owen?
Oh, okay. All right, here we go.
Let's dive in.
I'm gonna go to the very end of the film for my moment, and it starts with so Daniels is with Walter / David. She's preparing to go into sleep. Right before, I mean, like Mateo, like you said, you're not entirely convinced, and you're not really supposed to be entirely convinced that this is Walter, right? You kind of know it's David. In the form of the film, Ridley makes the reveal before he actually makes it, in that there's this really disorienting shot right before she gets in the pod that is this low Dutch angle of David. And it comes out of nowhere. It's like no other shot in the movie. It's like from below him, and it's this canted angle of him, and you know it's so unsettling to see that. And then she climbs in the pod, and he shuts it. And I think that dialogue exchange when she says, "When we get there, will you help me build my cabin?" Which is this emotional connection she had with Walter. And she looks up, and we get that shot. And there is nothing in his eyes.
It's on recognition. Yeah.
And she sees that he has no idea what she is talking about. And credit to her performance as well.
Yes,
she knows in that second that it's David, and she sells it.
Horrifying.
And it's terrifying.
Yes.
It is so terrifying. That's the moment of the film for me. For sure.
That's one of my favorite twists. I probably like one of my favorite like reveals of a twist. Like it's just so, and to have at the very end like that, it's it doesn't.
I was getting worried that they weren't gonna give it to us.
No David closure. Yeah.
And then when it happened, I was just like,
it's perfect. It's perfect.
I'm a Cubhead.
Yeah. And Doctor Amy, and then the
baptize me.
Yeah. And then the entry of the gods into Valhalla, like that starts playing again, like in full force as he's going down, and like coughs up like Rico from Madagascar coughs up the embryos, and puts them in there like that. It's just Perfect ending, and it makes it. We can talk about this in a sec, but like the lack of third movie plan for this, it makes that a little more heartbreaking. But again, it's like it's such a perfect ending in a way that it's like I'm just happy we have it. Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened type beat.
Yeah, it adds to the whole what I was talking about with like this feels like an evil movie because there is no third movie. This is like the ending. Technically, you're like, man, like I just feel disturbed. Like, but I can't lie to the audience. When it was revealed that it was David, I did a backflip.
But what about you guys? You're this is why we plays from this film.
I mean, it's the flute. Yeah, it's got to be the flute, right? Like, outside of that, like. But it's just like the overall vibe of the entire like middle
the second
section of that movie is just like
it's
so clean. And I already talked about it. Like again, that little exterior shot where it's just the Isle of the Dead, like I mean, like he didn't need to do that, but like he did. That was cool.
yeah.
But if I have to go like micro into the flute scene, into the fingering,
into the David verse.
The innuendo in that scene is crazy. But if I have to go into that again, it's so funny the way that he said where like Walter doesn't hear him walk in, and then he's like, "I'm like the fog. I come in on little cat feet." I mean, come on. That's amazing.
That rules. Also, David playing his own theme, like the movie theme on the flute. He's cracked for that. That's gross. It's so good.
Oh, wait. I mean, I just want to shout out a few more lines that David had in here, just because it's
please. Oh, there's one I want to rip.
The David pod at this point.
Yes.
They weren't worthy of what they created. Was really good. Even the monkey stood upright at one point.
Oh, rowdy.
Yeah. And what a cruel way to end the film, where he's just like, where she asks like what kind of world the world that they were originally going for was, and he's like, if we are kind, it will be a kind world. So it tees it up for being like, oh, maybe it is Walter, just for them to Axia,
No, exactly. I do love the line when he goes, better to reign in hell than serve in heaven.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa. I mean, that's just Paradise Lost. He's just ripping. I know, but it's
exactly. But again, like I want to see that in my blockbusters. Like please,
let him crib. Let him crib. That's classic. That's classic. Let him do it.
Give me that stuff, bro. Oh,
give me it. Yeah, for sure.
So that's this is why we play too. Seb is the flute.
Oh, for sure.
Gotta be
for sure.
You're valid.
Yeah.
I mean, like I know that's my answer as well. I guess maybe I just want to highlight that opening scene again with Guy Pearce. Again, like it, like you see the vision of Prometheus a lot more in that scene. I love one little like a small acting moment I wanted to bring up is when he like he kind of criticizes his choice to play on the piano, right? And then Fassbender goes like, or David goes like, he's like, you created me and I know my creator, and he's like, you don't know your creator, and I'm going to outlive you. He says something like that, and it is slightly, I kind of jumbled that order up, but yeah, he says like, you're my creator, but I'm going to outlive you, and you like all the insecurity sets in over Guy Pearce's face, and he goes like, bring me my tea, and just kind of like snaps back over and tries to reclaim the control over him, but David knows in that moment. It's like the Paul Dano, does he know? It's like David like he connected that dot way too quickly, like for Guy Pearce's comfort, and then in the way his expression, his face ever so slightly falters when Guy Pearce snaps at him with like, get me my tea, like he's like confused and almost disappointed by it. Perfect. It's a small 1 second expression shift, and it speaks volumes. It's just that. I mean, that's just what it's all about.
I mean, this is probably like my top 5 performances of all time. Like,
I don't even have like. I would agree.
It is the best dual performance of all time. Like, I don't know. I feel comfortable saying that.
I have no reservations about saying this. Like,
he is that good. I love me some Fassbender. I guess just one real quick last note. I thought it was Axe. That's not the case, but like as of right now, because there were plans, very much so plans for the final movie in this trilogy, and it was going to be about the engineers like seeking revenge on David for murking him,
right? Like,
for just taking them all out, and it was going to take place on the planet that Alien takes place on, Alien 1. So it was going to kind of tie back in there. Very interesting. It could still happen, but in the meantime, we're getting a new alien from Fede Alvarez and also an alien series from Noah Hawley. And I think how those perform and like if there's still like a true market for Alien probably determines what, and also if Ridley keeps kicking, determines whether or not we get that, which I would love to see, but I'm very satisfied with what we have.
Could you imagine a post-credit scene with David? Like I mean,
it's important for me to remember that this isn't confirmed that this is actually happening. That Seb, I got more excited from you saying that than like any like Marvel tease that's ever happened.
That's what I'm saying.
I was just backflipped in my seat. I would lose my mind, bro.
I might jump out of my seat more than like Cap taking up Millionaire or something. Like that. Like
theater reacts to David reappearing. Yeah.
I mean.
This could have a really positive impact for our society.
Me pitching to
literally, bro.
The little bit we have information of the Fede Alvarez film does hint at maybe continuing some of these themes, which is really interesting to me. So here, Mateo, I think you're going to pick up on this immediately when I tell you what the title of this film is, if you don't already know. The film is titled officially Alien Romulus. Whoa. And if you know Roman mythology at all, you know that the story of Romulus and Remus, the two sons who are raised by Lupa and her pack of wolves, and the poster of this film, the poster art that's been released, is of a tiny human child reaching out and touching hands with a xenomorph.
Whoa.
So we could be getting some craziness happening in this film if it goes to those places. And I could say for an hour
raising a human baby.
Yeah. And there are theories online, and I don't want to fall into this because I know it's a false hope. People are speculating that the human baby is David's child that he's raising with the xenomorphs for whatever reason.
I figured you were getting at. Yeah, it's like two different children. His two children, the baby and the xenomorph. Bro,
yeah.
I hope this ages well. I hope this takes age well because I'm
gonna be so disappointed this doesn't happen.
I'm too invested, guys. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. I needed that.
Please be real. Please be real.
No, seriously, bro. And honestly, like again, happy with what we have. I was watching this film. I got the Blu-ray for like $8 or for this rewatch for Alien Covenant, and I was watching the film. And I was like, I'm glad I just own this movie. Like, it's good. Well, I'm like, I'm glad I have access to this forever. Like, it's
second tab. I've been shopping for the 4K.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Mateo's second screening the 4K shopping options. Okay. That being said, if we are to put a period on this discourse of this project, of this duology, of the Alien prequel project, and try to be like, okay, this is our definitive statement about these films. What would it be? I think personally, it's as simple as it's just misunderstood and mistreated. They are absolutely remarkable. And I think we've kind of already said this, but they're just remarkable blockbuster filmmaking that I think everybody should watch. And I'm not going to make it much more complicated or convoluted than that. Yeah.
I do want to say, so this is kind of a little bit of a nuclear take I had cooked up, and I'm dropping it now, and nobody can say anything.
Oh no!
There we go.
If these movies were like 10% better, I think they would be some of the greatest movies of all time. Like that is how close I think they are. And I just mean like just like you just buff it up here a little bit there, a little bit there, a little bit there, and it's like it just takes it over the edge because like these are the most ambitious movies that we have watched for this podcast.
Yes,
I think I can say that just
by far.
With zero, whatever flaws they might have. Like these are such sweeping, such swing taking movies, and the craft is exceptional, and what they're exploring through David, through the David show, but through the way these other characters interact and through the lore that they build up that we didn't need more lore about the xenomorphs, but the fact that they did it this way, it's incredible. It's incredible. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like if I had to say something about these movies, it would just be, yeah, like these movies like are historic.
Mateo, I love those takes. These films are anomalous, and when you finish the double feature, they really like this duology almost becomes greater than the sum of its parts in a way. It's like the flaws begin to fade away, and it's just
Godfather Part 1, Part 2.
I mean,
come on.
Yeah, honestly,
not that they're as good. Not Godfather Part
they're
1.
Better. You know, so,
let's not disrespect, but you know
they do.
Right? They has the same cumulative power. Yeah.
Well said. I love that. Seb, what about you?
Hard to follow that up.
Yeah.
I mean, all I can say is other prequels. I mean, Owen kind of said this in the pregame, but like other prequels, like take notes. This is how it's done.
Yeah.
You know.
Well said.
I think like criminally buried films. You know, they buried them for their ambition, which almost makes me want to fight them for them even more.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're gonna hate movies for taking swings and for a good amount of it actually like really hitting on some of the themes that they're tackling.
It connects. Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what? Stay away. Don't like if you're a hater, don't come back. These are our movies. Stick to your side of the room. Yeah, we're powerful on our own. Cubheads unite.
Yeah,
Cubheads unite. Yeah, I'm getting that tattooed. Owen, what about you?
All right. Well, I'll wrap it up on another hot take along.
Come on.
Let's go.
So
I'm ready.
My first watch through on the franchise ranking, these landed at 3 and 4. Okay, Covenant 3, Prometheus 4. My first bomb I'm going to drop is that I think they're both better than James Cameron's Aliens, and I'm sorry to James Cameron fans.
I love James, but I think I agree.
Yes.
So that being said, I would put at 4. I would put James with Aliens.
Wow.
All right. At 3, Prometheus. Okay. Obviously. I think I'm confident after this 2-hour conversation in saying that Alien Covenant is my number 1 of the franchise right now.
No!
And I think that's because it is more ambitious in every way. It executes on every level. And it's not that I don't think 1979's Alien is perfect, but in terms of what they're both trying to accomplish and the levels at which they accomplish them, I think at this point in my life, Alien Covenant is my number 1 of the franchise. I think it's his crowning achievement.
I want to shake your hand. I want to shake his hand.
We did it, Joe. Come on.
I'm with him.
This is why we record. This is what Covenant want. This
Covenant wants.
Can we send this to Ridley? Can he hear this? He needs to hear this, bro. Like this is
Ridley. You have nothing to apologize for.
I'm ecstatic. This is why we pod. This is why we pod, boys. There's nothing else to say, fellas. Love this movie. Owen, thank you for joining us. It was a delight having you on.
Oh, I was so happy to be on. Thank you guys for having me.
Just an absolute pleasure. Let's go learn the flute together.
End credit scene. Owen will return. I'm sure. We're all. I bought us all flutes too. Thank you all for listening this far. And next week we will be covering Pirates of the Caribbean 2: Dead Man's Chest. Owen just pogged hearing us say that. Very, very excited. So we will see you all then.